Lamine Yamal steps into McDonald's, looks left, sees Pulisic, looks right, sees Jimenez. Gives a nod to Ronaldinho in the corner with a FIFA World Cup meal. Ronaldinho sees Son in the booth. Son finds Beckham going for extra Big Mac sauce. He's got Davies at the table just behind him. Davies going for his collectible cup. Oh no! A steal by Henry, who pulls his own collectible cup. Collect one of 9 legendary cups with a FIFA World Cup meal.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last. All rights reserved. 2026 McDonald's at FIFA World Cup 2026.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and after nearly a full calendar year of subliminal messages and the zero dark 30 in the NFL, Brandon Aiyuk has finally shared his side of the story in a new Instagram video that came out on Sunday. We'll dive into the video itself, try to decipher what Aiyuk is trying to say to us, the fans, and the media. And of course, get into what it means for the San Francisco 49ers going forward. You are not going to want to miss today's show. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us that 5-star audio podcast review, and use our promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase, because holy hell, it seems like we were never going to hear from Brandon Aiyuk until he was inevitably released. But no. Aiyuk decided to make June 7th of all days the day he's finally heard and speaks his piece in a brand new Instagram video. He said, damn the subliminal Instagram messages. I'm not going to go on YouTube. I'm going to speak my mind for the first time. Unpack the curtain, reveal the curtain, if you will, pull it back and get into the nitty-gritty of what is actually transpiring between the Brandon Aiyuk and the San Francisco 49ers. And it's a lot, because there is the Brandon Aiyuk side, there is the 49ers side, and now there is the Washington Commanders fan base's side that has become, out of nowhere, one of the biggest advocates for Brandon Aiyuk. I don't know why that is, but they're in the conspiracy theory well, and we'll dive into that today on top of it. So let's kick things off by looking at the video Brandon Aiyuk posted on Instagram. It was also on Twitter via the plethora of aggregators out there in the community, but I will go ahead and put the video for you here. It's about a minute and a half long, and shockingly, Aiyuk decides to go on the metaphor train and compare San Francisco to a cat, a female dog, and, well, I'll let Aiyuk speak for himself. So without further ado, here is Brandon Aiyuk via his own words, discussing what is happening between him and the San Francisco 49ers.
We dealing with, like them kids when they don't get picked for the basketball game at the court, but they the ones that brought the ball. So they like, all right, y'all don't want to pick me? I'm taking my ball. I'm going home. Little ass boys. Or like when your kid, he got this one toy, but he don't really know how to use it correctly. So somebody else about to pick it up and play with it. And they're like, oh yeah, this shit litty. And they're like, wait, hold on, that's my toy. Little ass boy. Man, stop running from the belt. The belt coming. You scared. They scared. The truth is they scared. They know how I get. They're going to say, oh, yeah, BA did this, BA did that. BA did, that shit allegedly. But what they not going to say is BA suck at football because they know how I get. And they running from that belt that's on the way. It's inevitable. It's coming. Stop running. Stop being a female dog.
Stop being a female dog.
Stop being a little cat.
Being a little cat.
Stop running from the belt.
I think the best part of that entire video is that Brandon Aiyuk decides to emphasize the stop being a little cat. Like, of all the words to edit and like point to and like draw our attention to, it's that. The slow motion, like it's, the early 2000s where CGI isn't great. Stop being a female dog. Like, okay, dude. I want to know if he did that himself, like in his driveway or whatever, or he had his partner or his brand manager do it, because my God. But let's try to decipher what Brandon Aiyuk is trying to say, because not that it's overly complicated, but it does sound like he's saying a lot of gibberish of like, okay, like, what do you mean by this? And it's more of like, okay, how do you translate the hieroglyphics he's speaking into how it compares to the San Francisco 49ers? But I do think it actually is pretty straightforward. So he's basically comparing the 49ers to a child who doesn't want someone else to play with their toy. In this case, Brandon Aiyuk is the toy, and the other person wanting to play with it is the Washington Commanders. That seems pretty cut and dry. But then he goes on to discuss, in his words, things that San Francisco is maybe putting out there or making him look bad with these alleged acts that are trying to smear his name and separate themselves from Aiyuk as they attempt to either trade him, release him, or who knows what transpires down the road. Then he says San Francisco is scared because they don't want to see him go elsewhere and be successful, let alone to the Washington Commanders, who they do play this year, and maybe get some active revenge against them this season. He later then calls the San Francisco 49ers a female dog, or the way he edited it, a female dog. And he basically says the belt's coming. Like, at some point, you're going to have to, you're going to get your whooping, right? So going through that interpretation by interpretation, calling the San Francisco 49ers children for not wanting somebody else to play with their toy. Well, see, Brandon Aiyuk, the fact is you're still under contract. Technically, you are still their toy, and technically, you are the one that refused to play with them first. They signed you to a $120 million contract. You got hurt, then said, I'm out. I don't think that's them refusing to play with you. It's you refusing to play with them. So if anyone's a child in this case, I think it might be you, my friend. The other part, the things that he believes San Francisco is putting out there to make him look bad, the alleged acts, I don't think the county of Santa Clara is making up alleged arrest warrants on your name. I don't think those are alleged. Now, maybe that's not what he's referring to. Maybe he's referring to the likes of him not coming maybe to the facility to do workouts, or not coming to his recovery or his rehab. We haven't known that yet. We don't know exactly what events transpired to have San Francisco revoke the guarantees in his contract, but the fact is, Aiyuk didn't fight him. So clearly it was enough that it was warranted. Kyle and John have said throughout this entire process, we've never seen this before. In our entire GM lives, our entire coaching lives, Shanahan's been around football since he was 12 years old. He's never seen this before. So clearly, if Aiyuk had a leg to stand on, he would have said, NFLPA, file a grievance. He didn't do that. You gave in when you had a chance to fight, likely because you really didn't have a bone to pick because you were in the wrong. Continuing on here, he said San Francisco scared of playing him again. I don't think San Francisco gives two flying you-know-whats of having to play Brandon Aiyuk again. They know your medical records. They know exactly what your skill set is. They know exactly how to beat you. And they know exactly how you can beat them. And maybe the Washington Commanders do beat San Francisco this year. I don't know. Nobody knows. And when healthy, Aiyuk's a darn good football player. But the question is, are you healthy? And you haven't played football for 2 seasons. And the 7 games in which you did play football, you had no training camp before that. You were terrible for 7 games. And so the expectation shouldn't be, oh, I'm going to come back in 2026 and be near all-pro Brandon Aiyuk again. Maybe you will be. But the odds would say it's probably not going to happen. Then to end, he calls San Francisco female dogs. We all know what that means. And the belt's coming. Okay, to imply that you are going to be able to apply the belt to San Francisco when in fact, and this is the kicker here, and we'll get into more of this when we dive into the Washington Commanders fan base being this like random conspiracy theorist hive mind of why the Niners are in the wrong about Brandon Aiyuk and why he's a victim in this whole thing, because he's not. When you're telling somebody else, the belt's coming, I'm going to whoop you at some point. Aiyuk, you have failed to answer phone calls from your head coach, your GM, and your teammates. I believe the only inkling of communication we have known about between Brandon Aiyuk and somebody within the Niners organization was when George Kittle tore his Achilles and Aiyuk essentially texted him saying, hey, bro, I'm sorry, I'm praying for you. Wishing you well. That is the only smidge of communication we've heard about between somebody inside the building and Brandon Aiyuk for roughly 8 months. You didn't show up to the facility for about that same time period, and now you have an arrest warrant hanging over your head, whether it is for something serious or not. They didn't make you post a video on social media. Like, you may serve jail time. It isn't likely, but it's possible. There may be a suspension. I don't know. Those are possible things that can happen. But, and this is the kicker, is that this can all end tomorrow. Excuse me. This can all end today. This could have all ended during OTAs. Could have all ended during training camp. Could have all ended during the season. So for Aiyuk to be on social media for the first time, calling out San Francisco, applying they're a bunch of bitches, and accusing them of allegedly putting things out there to make him look bad, they have put nothing out there to make you look bad. Aiyuk is not a victim whatsoever. He can be frustrated. That's fine. It sounds like he's somebody that expected himself to get released at some point in time. And San Francisco is like, we are going to call your bluff as long as we possibly can because it benefits them to do so. I see on social media the last day or so, they should just cut him. Cut him. What's the point? Just release him. Why would they release him when they don't have to? And they would reap a reward by not releasing him if he continues to do what he does of not showing up. You guys know this now. You've heard the show for the past couple weeks. They can get the whole salary back for 2027 if Aiyuk continues to be AWOL. So for the Commanders fans out there saying, release him, there's no point, San Francisco is being petty. No, San Francisco is in line to continue to wipe away one of the biggest mistakes of this regime's history off the board for another year if Aiyuk continues to be AWOL. If he continues to be off into the ether, doing nothing outside of YouTube videos and random Instagram post where you're like, I don't know what you're trying to say, but cool, bro. You be you. Waste more of that money you don't have and may not get in the future seasons. So heed your own advice, Brandon Aiyuk. Heed your own advice. Stop speeding past Levi Stadium. Show up to work and end the charade. Don't call the Niners a child when you haven't come to work. We've all been to a place, like I often will use this example because I have worked in my short 29 years of life. I've had the privilege to work at a lot of places, right? I've been a writer at Clutch Points, The Heavy, Yard Barker, TWSN. I've worked at Fox Sports Radio. I've worked at 95.7 The Game. I've been a postman. I have also worked at Walmart. All of those places I've worked at, for the most part, have been pretty good. But at Walmart, I hated my life. I said, it's terrible. I don't want to be here anymore. We've all been to a place we don't want to be at anymore. But you know what you do? Go into the office. Hey, guys, it's not working out. I'm going to quit. I'm going to leave. Or you just leave quietly in the night where nobody has to know. Nobody looks at you. No one knows you're gone. You just, I see ya. See ya.
This is what everyone's talking about.
Everything's on the table.
This is what champions come to take. This is what everyone came to see.
And the slam!
No do-overs. No second chances. No more Mr. Nice Guy. This is winner take all. The NBA Finals continue on ABC and the ESPN app.
But for Brandon Aiyuk, and again, going into the whole Commanders stuff and their fan base discussing, well, they did him wrong. They did him wrong. How do you give somebody a $120 million contract, pay them $30 million a year, in which in the months leading up to that, you refused to trade him, then presented that same player with 3 teams willing to trade for and then subsequently pay him the money he wanted, in which he outright refused. And then when San Francisco had enough, said, you're going to Pittsburgh, he went, okay, I'll sign. How is that their fault? It ain't their fault you got hurt. It ain't their fault you went AWOL. It ain't their fault you sped past Levi Stadium. It ain't their fault you still continue to not come to work. It is not their fault, in which if you wanted to not be a San Francisco 49er bad enough, you wouldn't have signed the contract. You would have held out longer. You would have either played out the last year of your 5th-year option, or even if you did sign it and everything after went as it has and you got hurt, you would have been at Niners practice in OTAs day one and said, get me out of here. Because at that point in time, their hands are tied and they have to make a decision. The minute June 1st passed and the post-June 1st cut became the only option for them outside of keeping you on the DNR list, just come to work. Aiyuk had 2 weeks to come to work. He could have came to rookie minicamp and reported. Fred Warner was there. Osa Digizua was there. A lot of vets were there in the building. All he has to do is show up, and the whole charade ends. Literally everything is his fault post the signing. We can admit wholesale. San Francisco did not do things the right way before signing, during negotiations. They do what they always do, sit on their hands, wait things out. We do things on our time. And it's why when they signed Fred Warner and Brock Purdy and George Kittle last offseason, we all said, whoa, the winds of change have come to San Francisco. Because it was so unlike them to do that, to get things done ahead of time. But for Brandon Aiyuk, sat on their hands, didn't trade him during the draft, didn't decide what to do with him throughout the majority of the offseason, played hardball negotiations, watched the receiver market skyrocket with him just sitting there being like, great, I'm getting paid more than DJ Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown in a company like those guys. They played the negotiations wrong. But everything after the negotiations, once the ink dried on that dotted line, it is Brandon Aiyuk's fault. Exhibit A. He signs the deal. He signs that fat $120 million contract, $30 million per year. Great. BA's back. Oh, boy. BA's back. Oh, man, I can't wait. Can't wait to watch Brock Purdy and Brandon Aiyuk be out there. And then this happened. You know what this is. We all know what this is. Brandon Aiyuk coming to practice, in line to be a team captain this year. They drafted Pearsall, drafted Debo. Debo's going to be gone. Ayuk's now a team leader. He's the number one in that room. And then he wears the wrong shorts to practice, causing a distraction on the football field, only to reveal he's got the right color of undergarments on under the red shorts the whole time. Because you wanted to make a spectacle? Because you think you're special? Because you just felt like, I want to wear red that day? Like, I get it. Negotiations are negotiations. It's a new day and age of social media and unfollowing people. Like, but once you sign, great. We can put it all behind us, move on. Not a big deal. Then you're doing crap like this. Shanahan's ripping you during practice, being like, look, I don't like the rules, bro, but these are the rules. Like, that's fine. But you got the wrong shorts on. You got to do what you got to do. You got to be a team player here. Aiyuk didn't want to do that. Aiyuk said, nah, I'm good, man. Nah. That's Ayuk's fault. That is one example of him being selfish, being a problem. Nobody else did that. Fred Warner didn't do that. George Kittle didn't do it. Nick Bosa didn't do it. Christian McCaffrey didn't do it. Trent didn't do it. Nobody else that signed a massive contract with the San Francisco 49ers with this regime has done something like that post-signing. It's all been, put everything behind us. That's negotiations. We can separate business from football. That is one thing Shanahan is normally good at. Is that, look, John and Parag and Jed, they handle business. I handle football. If they get the business side done and we can just play football, I don't care. Them signing those deals, that's their prerogative, not mine. I want to coach. I want to get guys who I believe in, Debo, Aiyuk, Christian McCaffrey, on the football field. And Shanahan was the one that ran up to John's office and said, wait, don't trade him. He'll sign now. And like a week within his return, he's already causing a distraction at practice. Okay, then you go forward and everything, and Aiyuk gets injured. Sucks, can't control it. It happens. Wish it never happened. If Aiyuk never got hurt, maybe we aren't even talking about this. Because there is no rehab necessary. There is no guarantees revoked. And we don't know that to be for sure. But if there's no injury, there's no rehab, the odds would say Aiyuk's probably still a San Francisco 49er through 2026. He's still like, there's no Mike Evans signing. Like, a lot changes if Aiyuk never gets hurt. But he got hurt. And I've seen Commanders fans online say, well, they tried to trade him the offseason following the injury. So leading into 2025, they tried to trade him away. And they're pushing back saying, well, when Fred got hurt, they didn't try to trade him. When Kittle got hurt, they didn't try to trade him. When McCaffrey got hurt, flew to Russia to get procedures done, they didn't try to trade him either. I would say this. One, San Francisco has openly talked about they will listen for trade offers on anybody. That also includes Kyle Shanahan, who has said, if somebody wants to offer 3 or 4 first-round draft picks for me, I'd probably be gone the next day too. So them listening to offers is not uncommon for them. They'll listen on anybody at any time. They also realized immediately after the deal, because of shenanigans like the short stuff, that this is probably a mistake. We overpaid for a guy. Now he's causing problems and now he's hurt. Well, like anything else, wouldn't you want to get out of a bad deal? Now, yeah, is it somewhat shady? Of course it is. You gave him all this money, gave him a big contract. Now you went out within a year because he got hurt. Really? Really? Yeah, that doesn't make San Francisco look good by any means. But I can also say, going back to why that same thing wasn't applied to McCaffrey and Kittle and Bosa and Warner, Aiyuk is at best, even today, if he were healthy, the team's third offensive option. McCaffrey, Kittle, then Aiyuk. And he's not as important to their success as McCaffrey, Kittle, Aiyuk, or McCaffrey, Kittle, Trent, Bosa, McCaffrey, Brock Purdy. Like, they showed last year they can win 13 games without him. Thus, when you see, wow, the guy's making $30 million on average per year the next 4 seasons, and now he's doing stupid stuff during practice. Maybe we don't do that. Maybe we move on. Now, I think San Francisco would prefer this never happened. That includes the Aiyuk deal itself. But if they sign the deal still, they would love Brandon Aiyuk to be out there. Who wouldn't love a healthy Brandon Aiyuk with Brock Purdy back on the football field? I even think last year, had things changed, had Aiyuk still gotten hurt, and he come to every rehab stuff, done the checkups, and not went AWOL, they would have welcomed him back with open arms. Like, that's what to me is confusing here. It's like, do you not think San Francisco wants to see any return on their investment? It's not like they signed him, said, oh crap, what a mistake. See if we can do anything possible to get him out of the building now. They signed him, he got hurt, then he didn't show up, thus leading to them responding with the guarantees being revoked. But now he's AWOL, and here we are. He's not a victim. He is the one that is inflicting this on himself, and he always has been, post-signing. And it's funny because we talked about over the last few weeks of him going from untradeable to unsignable. And now you're hearing Commanders media say they can't afford to have a distraction now. It's year 2 or year 3 of Jaden Daniels. Dan Quinn could be on the outs. Adam Peters, his job, although isn't in danger, the seat could be getting somewhat warmer. They had somewhat of a youth movement on defense. And they're trying to refine themselves in their own division. And you just assume the guy that's gone AWOL after getting paid $120 million and is now on social media publicly ranting about his former team, calling them female dogs and calling him out for smearing his name allegedly. Why would you want that? Are they to assume that, Jaden Daniels and Aiyuk's relationship fixes everything? Wouldn't being a constant contender for a Super Bowl and getting paid $120 million be enough to not make you complain and come to work every single day? If money and winning aren't enough for Brandon Aiyuk, then what is it? He agreed to sign, and now he doesn't want to play. It's not like he can't make a lot of that money that's guaranteed for him this year or going to be given him this year. It just sounds like a person that was hoping to call San Francisco's bluff. Oh, I'll wait till June 1st. That's my soft deadline. Then refused to still come to OTAs and force their hand, and now wants to go on social media and complain, when in reality, he is in control of his own future. Like, that seems to be somehow forgotten here. Aiyuk is completely in control of what happens next. Come to work, everything ends. They cut you, they trade you, they take your dead cap hit on for the next 2 seasons, and they move forward without you. You go sign with Washington, and so on and so forth. Or you don't show up, You lose more money this year, and you don't play until you do report. Why is that so hard to understand here for fans on the Commanders side? Or even Brandon Aiyuk. Like, it sounds like he's wanting somebody else to act when, if you just take charge, brother, it'll all be done in one day. He can show up tomorrow, today, and say, hey, John, hey, Kyle, I know FIFA's coming and there ain't practice this week, but I'm here. You don't think John and Kyle are there? Of course they're there. They're in the they're in the building watching film, going over stuff. You think Kyle, who tells his wife, you get 2 weeks of me off a year, is not in the building at Levi's? All he has to do is show up, and the whole charade ends. It's not San Francisco's fault you don't want to come to work. It's not Kyle and John's fault you have failed to report for 8 months. That's on you, my friend. The minute you got put on the did not report list, all you had to do was come to work or just report, and none of this has to happen. None of the AWOL stuff, none of your social media rants, none of you speeding past Levi's State, none of it. This whole thing is over. Like, think about it this way. Aiyuk has had at least 3 to 4 opportunities to end this offseason alone. The first day of the new league year, the first day of free agency, the first day of OTAs, and then the first day of rookie minicamp, which, what are you waiting for, brother? What are you waiting for? Nobody has to know you show up. No one has to see you. There's nobody. You can come at 6 a.m. when Kyle's drinking coffee and taking his apple cider water, and Chris Forrest is out there still doing cola like he was in Miami. And to say, hey, guys, cut me. And they'll go, okay, let's get paperwork out. Like, you can do this. Don't blame somebody else and call them female dogs and put it back on them when you are the one responsible for everything happening. Don't send out warnings of, I'm going to put a boot in your ass, give you a belt, when the only way you have a chance to do that is if you show up to work. So the threats are empty. The social media post means nothing until you come to work. The belt's coming. Not unless you show up. No way. No way. But look, the Aiyuk video is comical. He's on Instagram the day before putting himself in Commanders hats. I think I have it here. Like, he's out there essentially telling the world, like, I want to be a Commander. I want to be a Commander. It's like, what are you doing, brother? Why are you being unnecessary? Like, you're on there trying to make a spectacle when the spectacle should simply be, hey, John, hey, Kyle, I'm here at Levi's, cut me now. And Brog and Jed and John get together and they sign the release form. They put it on the transaction wire, and then 4 hours later, we all get the alert via ESPN's Adam Schefter. Aiyuk showed up today, now he's cut. Like, it really is that simple. It's not complicated. There isn't like a 5-step program. This ain't P90X. Just get your ass in the building and then get your ass out. It really is as simple as that. But he doesn't want that. But now, at this point in the show, we are going to read tweets or posts from Commanders fans that have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to the Brandon Aiyuk situation. So without further ado, I present you with Josh Taylor, who covers the Commanders on Substack and YouTube, on the Covering the Commanders show and podcast. And it's all due respect to him. It's no hate towards him. But when you see stuff like this, it makes you wonder, do you actually know what's transpiring? Because obviously you don't. So here we are. Via Josh Taylor, he says, I said this on my Brandon Aiyuk video the other day. Aiyuk is still with the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan canceled mandatory minicamp due to 100% attendance at voluntary workouts. We all know Aiyuk wasn't there, so that was a lie. Shanahan is avoiding Aiyuk at all costs. Zoom in here for a second. You're trying to tell me Kyle Shanahan, the hard ass he is, who was making these dudes practice in pads 7 years ago, nearly a decade ago, was like, oh my God, I want to avoid Brandon Aiyuk, cost myself a week of practice in which half my team is in year 1 or year 2, and they're playing pivotal positions, and I'm relying on young guys to step up or have guys in make or break seasons. But God, Brandon Aiyuk and his presence terrifies me. Get out of here. In what world is Brandon Aiyuk living rent-free in Kyle Shanahan's mind? That's the guy that told the media in the middle of October that if he showed up, I'd love to have him back. That's the guy that ran up to John Lynch's office and said, don't trade him. Get off the phone with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. He'll sign the deal. You think that's the guy that is just up in arms of, oh my God, what if Brandon Aiyuk shows up? He didn't cancel OTAs. He didn't cancel rookie minicamp. He didn't cancel anything else because, oh my God, Brandon Aiyuk will be there. Maybe it's because FIFA's coming into town. And if you've been to Levi's Stadium, which I'm sure half the Commanders fans haven't, I haven't been to Washington ever. So, that goes both ways here. But Levi's is a crap hole. I've been to practice there consistently. It's not fit for a 90-man football roster. They can't even fit joint practices there. You're squished. They can barely fit fans there. That stadium was built in like 2011 or 13. And that isn't very old, but that stadium's old now compared to what the Dallas Cowboys have and the Patriots have and all these other grand teams have. And then FIFA comes in. It's the World Cup. They are changing the practice field. They're putting up all these bleachers and things. And the Niners aren't going to go practice inside the stadium. They don't do that ever. And if FIFA's taken over, there's less parking spots. There's more foot traffic. If you've been to Levi's, they have one parking structure opposite the stadium, and the media and all the workers park there. What do they think is going to happen? But, oh, God, Brandon Aiyuk may come, so let's just cancel all the practices. Oh, Shanahan's so scared of Aiyuk. What? Even one of their own reporters was like, yeah, take your tinfoil hats off, brother. Like, what are we doing? No. So, Josh, all due respect here, the Niners are not avoiding Brandon Aiyuk. In fact, it's the opposite. Aiyuk has been avoiding the 49ers for 8 months. They're honestly waiting for him to show up. Waiting for him to show up. Because if he does show up, then they win. And on top of that, San Francisco has openly said he's not going to play another snap for us this year, next year, ever again. They signed and drafted his replacements in Mike Evans and Dejon Stribling. And outside of Brandon Aiyuk, one guy that is, although under contract, isn't technically part of the roster. They had 100% attendance. They're just waiting on him. Pull up. Literally, they want Aiyuk to pull up. But it's up to him. It's up to him. The next tweet here, the next post is via Chris Bryant. What do they do? He's a diehard Commanders fan, part of the Hog Farmers. Again, all due respect to Chris, but here's his post. Calling Brandon Aiyuk crazy ignores a lot of context. Let's see how much Commanders fans actually know the context of the San Francisco 49ers. He played through injuries. So does every other player. Helped his team reach the Super Bowl. That's true. That's true. And he earned his extension by producing at a high level. It's all true. He had a great 2022 and a really good 2023. Ladybug catch, had Aiyuk still been here, had it paid off in the end via championship, maybe one of the greatest catches of all time in Niner history against the Detroit Lions. We continue, though. Teams make business decisions all the time, and players have to protect their own interests too. I would agree with that. Hence why you have these long, drawn out, blow-by-blow negotiations. You don't do this after you signed the contract. All that protect your own interests in business happens pre-signing, not post-signing. Chris goes on to say, disagree with Aiyuk all you want, but expressing frustration does not automatically make someone crazy. Two things can be true. The relationship may have deteriorated, and Brandon Aiyuk can still be justified in feeling the way he do. Aiyuk can be frustrated for San Francisco taking away his guarantees, although that was his fault. Aiyuk can be frustrated that San Francisco has not cut him yet because he thought if I hold out enough, they'll just release me and I can go to Washington scot-free on the yellow, on the road to playing with Jaden Daniels. This ain't Wizard of Oz, brother. There is no yellow brick road waiting for you out there giving you a free ride to Washington. You signed a deal. You didn't show up. You got to pay the piper at some point in time. That comes in the form of, we're going to call your bluff until you come to work. So what Chris is saying isn't inherently false, but when you apply it specifically to San Francisco and Aiyuk's situation, it crumbles. It falls apart completely. They didn't make him speed past Levi's. They didn't make him not come to work. The context of Aiyuk is crazy. Hey, he isn't Antonio Brown. He doesn't have CTE. But the dude got paid and then flipped a lid and became an entirely different person overnight. That doesn't happen. Almost ever. So I think Commanders fans should actually know the context of what they're going to get themselves into. Like, almost everything is his fault. Another post here via the Full Command Show says this: Niner fans are too blinded by their own hatred to realize it's misplaced. I don't think it is. I really don't think it's misplaced. The frustration should lie with the organization, so it's their fault, obviously. The way they handled this situation, and that resulting in everything that's transpired. Commanders fans aren't pressed. They just know how to read the situation. Aiyuk will sign a 1-year deal for cheap and get released if it isn't working out. Then, if it does work out, he'll get extended. Either way, he'll get to enjoy getting out of a toxic culture for once. It's funny how Brandon Aiyuk is the only person, and the Commanders fans, to believe the San Francisco 49ers are a toxic culture. When is anybody that has been here, signed here, left San Francisco, the Niners, ever said it was a toxic culture? They said negotiations are tough. Deebo Samuel was very candid about, man, Prague and Jed and those guys, they say some really mean things in negotiations, and the way those guys handle, those talks is tough, and it can really rub you guys the wrong way. Still signed, though, and played out his entire deal besides the final season. Kittle has signed here twice. McCaffrey's signed here twice. Trent has signed here twice, if not signed twice and re-signed once. Jimmy Garoppolo signed here. Brock Purdy re-signed here. Mike Evans signed here. Osa Digizua got here and said, wow, things are different in like a week of being in San Francisco. But, oh, God, Aiyuk's in the toxic work environment. He's been to a Super Bowl, 2 NFC championships, has one of the best fan bases in all football supporting him, got paid $120 million for 4 years of his life, and then pissed a season of it away because he said, I don't want to come to work this year. But toxic. If anybody should know what a toxic work environment is, it should be the fan base that drove Kyle Shanahan out of town and had Dan Schneider leading the way with a plethora of horrible allegations against him that forced him to sell the team. But San Francisco is toxic, yet been one of the most successful regimes, maybe outside of the Rams and Chiefs, of the last decade. But toxic, right? Yeah, toxic. Always does good by their players. Have paid players just a do-good. Mac Jones got a raise this year. I can go back to 2019. Richard Sherman, who did not meet the requirement for his incentives, they paid him anyways. But toxic work environment. Somebody who constantly promotes from within and gives guys an opportunity. That lets coordinators call plays during practice. Oh, God, they're toxic. They may spend poorly at times. They may draft poorly at times. But toxic? Really? Toxic? Is that what we're doing here? Seriously. Toxic. And I've had debates with fans on social media about this because it just doesn't seem like they truly understand what happened. It's almost like they view it from afar, and this is probably what it is. They see a player they want that is now a player they can't have until something transpires between San Francisco and Aiyuk, and they're like, oh my God, we're panicking. Aiyuk's not going to be here in time until something happens. So we're going to go on social media and take you aside and welcome him in. Like, come on. Like, I honestly feel bad for Commanders fans. Like, and people in here are like, we have to define what successful means, Sterling. Yes, they haven't won a Super Bowl, this being the Niners, but they've been to 2 of them in this regime. They've been to multiple NFC championship games. They are a constant favorite to go to and win the Super Bowl each and every year. They won a playoff game last year with half the roster on the shelf. They are amongst the NFL's best since 2019, almost every single season. So, yeah, 31 years of the ultimate goal not being reached. But the past 7 years or so, it's been Chiefs, Philadelphia, Rams, and Niners. Not every team gets to win. It sucks when you lose, but my God, I'd rather be the 4th most successful team in the last near decade than be the Washington Commanders. Like, no one's saying it's the ultimate goal and they've reached it. No one's saying they've reached the big one, but they've been successful. Like, come on. That also isn't the point here. The point is that you have Washington Commanders fans trying to make it sound like Aiyuk's a victim when he's not. There is no way in which you can paint the Niners as the ones at fault here for this. And now you're seeing people inside the fan base go on radio, or not in the fan base, but in the media, go on the radio in Washington and, if I can find it here, say things like this that are so supremely absurd, it makes you question, how did you get there? How did you get there? How does A plus B equal C in your mind? So I'll bring it up here. Listen to this.
Much as clearly this thing has gone sideways there, I believe it was a Michael Silver piece in The Athletic a few years ago about Kyle standing on the table to make sure they got the contract done for Aiyuk. Like, there were good seasons there. Like, what was he like in the locker room during the 1,300-yard season?
He's always been the same. He's quiet. He stays to himself. I mean, he was part of the team. He was, into Brock Purdy. He promoted Kyle Shanahan, but he always felt like the fourth option on a run-first team. He called himself that. And then he didn't get targeted that much in the Super Bowl, and they lost, and it blew his mind, and he never really recovered. And I think he and Kyle never really had a great relationship. Kyle drafted him. Kyle appreciated him, and I think Aiyuk, he never really liked being here because.
So Kyle Shanahan, who drafted Aiyuk, was seen on draft night in 2020 remotely in his office, fist pumping like, oh my God, we got my guy. We got my guy. Something we've never seen him do in any other draft from 2017 to 2026. He didn't do it for Stribling that we saw. He didn't do it for Kinlaw, 7 picks earlier. He didn't do it for Ricky Pearsall. He didn't do it for anybody else but Brandon Aiyuk. The guy that ran up to John Lynch's office to stop the team from trading Aiyuk, the relationship wasn't great. Yeah, Kyle is a hard ass when it comes to receivers. He was in Kyle's doghouse for about a year or so, climbed himself out of it, and was flourishing in that same system. Was set up to become this team's number one wide receiver, their number 2 receiving threat and third option overall, because they were going to trade or let Deebo Samuel go away when they drafted Pearsall. But because of the Aiyuk negotiations and how they were going, said, we'll keep all 3 in 1 year's time. We'll let Deebo go, which they did. And we'll have Pearsall and Aiyuk, and we'll have Kittle and McCaffrey. Oh my God, it's going to be great. But he wasn't featured enough. Although he led San Francisco in targets for the 2 seasons in which he was at his prime. He wasn't featured enough, although he led them in receptions and was Brock Purdy's favorite receiving target in 2023. If we're just going to blatantly lie, don't say anything at all. Aiyuk can feel a way, but the facts prove different. Deebo Samuel told us on social media in 2024, man, I'm not getting the rock as much as I was. I need the rock more, when he led the team in touches that year. Like, no, bro. It ain't the ball that's not getting to you. It's you not getting to the ball. Like, come on. Continuing.
He wasn't really featured. And to really get in Kyle's good graces, you have to kind of kiss his butt a little bit. Like, Deebo Samuel would go into his office every day and would be they were like friends, or Deebo made him seem like they were friends. And Brandon Aiyuk isn't that kind of guy. He doesn't talk very much. And I think Kyle takes that the wrong way, or they're just like oil and water.
Because Brandon Aiyuk didn't go into Kyle Shanahan's office every single day and chat him up, that means their relationship wasn't good. Because Aiyuk didn't suck up to Kyle, that means they just were oil and water. What are we doing? What are we doing? We don't know what Kyle Shanahan thinks. You think him and Christian McCaffrey talk every day? You think him and the Cabo crew, which people call them out there, talk every single day? You think Kyle Shanahan didn't like Brandon Aiyuk because of what you thought they didn't talk all the time? You don't think Kyle Shanahan didn't talk to his star wide receiver every single day when they're in the office together? You don't think that Kyle Shanahan doesn't talk to most of his players on offense when they have offensive-centric meetings every single day? Defense is a little different. I get that. That's Kosaric, and that's Raheem Morris now. That was Sullivan, and that was Ryans, and that was Wilkes, and that was Sorensen. That was their thing. But you don't think Kyle isn't talking to the guys, especially a wide receiver, in which if you don't do one thing correctly, you're not going to play? Aiyuk started as a rookie, went in the doghouse, came out the better, and only received praise from Kyle. for a handful of seasons until he did this. What are we doing? Like, yes, some players have better relationships with their head coaches than others. Just like some people have better relationships with one parent than the other. If you have similar interests, you're likely going to bond more. It's why most men have mainly men friends. It's why most women have mainly women friends. That doesn't mean there isn't a little intermingling here or there. It just means that what you have in common, you have in common. You don't think Kyle Shanahan, who played wide receiver at Texas and is, again, just a hard nose for the position, wasn't chatting up Aiyuk, even if Aiyuk was quiet? You think if he didn't like him enough at Arizona State, in his personality, in the Zoom calls they had, he wouldn't have drafted him and then openly wanted to sign him to a brand new deal? That was, at the time, one of the biggest contracts ever for a wide receiver. But he didn't like him. He didn't like him. They weren't on good terms. What are we doing? Just blatantly saying things we have no insight to. And that person, who I'm not going to say their name because why would I, are in the building more than most. Have access that most don't have. But, oh God, they haven't told me that they talk all the time. Can we just call it what it is? Niners did bad negotiations. Aiyuk got what he wanted. Changed. Got hurt. San Francisco said, let's capitalize on this. Get out of it, if possible. Then Aiyuk didn't come, and they said, great, now we can use that against you. Took his guarantees away. He said, fine, I'm not coming to work anymore. And now they're in a stalemate. And the longer he holds off, the better for San Francisco. Like, what are we doing here? And Fish and Chip says, no insight doesn't mean you can't have an opinion. The unfortunate part here with Fish and Chips is that's not an opinion. That's him openly saying you have to suck up to Kyle Shanahan. That they weren't on good terms. They're oil and water. That is not an opinion. He didn't say, I think they're this. It's not the same thing. You have to be intentional with your words as a reporter. You have to, as a journalist, your words are everything. Mean what you say and say what you mean. If you believe that's the case, say, I think this. That's what I do. That's what all should do. It's also the same guy that has multiple times been kind of told to F off and also not been liked in the locker room since 2017. Like, and I'm not taking shots at him. I'm just saying that quote of him, what he's saying, he's making things up. There's no insight there. And it wasn't given as an opinion. There's very few things that we do know. Aiyuk is not coming to work. Thus, Aiyuk will not get paid until he comes to work. And if he comes to work, he'll get cut. San Francisco will take a dead cap hit. And then he'll go play for Washington this year, in which he'll face San Francisco, I think, week 6 of the season. And we'll see what happens then, if the belt is coming or not. But until then, Aiyuk can post on social media every single day until he's blue in the face. It changes nothing. Nothing. He isn't a victim. In fact, more so than not, he's at fault for this. And it's absurd to watch a whole other fan base in Washington say it isn't the case. But that all seems kind of under the guise of, we want that player. They think they're getting all pro Brandon Aiyuk, which they might. But man, it's going to be hard for me to believe Aiyuk will come back in 2 years, no football. Like, he's not being held hostage here. San Francisco is in a place to capitalize on his idiocracy. That's all this is. This isn't a back and forth of, one person's wrong, the other. No. This is simply just pick up the phone, man. It's like when you're fighting with your sibling and they refuse to talk to you and they want to give you the silent treatment. Giving someone the silent treatment is maybe one of the most immature things you can possibly do as a human being. We've all done it, but imagine you're fighting with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, your wife, your husband, and your response is, I'm not going to talk to you for a lengthy period of time. Instead of, look, let's talk, come to the table, let's kind of hash things out, let's find a way to find common ground. Aiyuk is giving the Niners the silent treatment here. It's immature. It's an immature act from a person that got paid to be one of the more mature players in the team and was gifted $120 million. Like, come on. And I'm not saying sometimes, you need some space. I get it. Sometimes you got to cool down. But giving someone 8 months of silent treatment, that's childish. It's childish. Now, you can cut somebody off. That's fine. The difference is when you cut somebody off, the relationship ends there. He's under contract for 3 more seasons. You can't just cut off your employer and then have them not want to recoup some funds from the contract you are still under. Not how that works, my friend. So, Aiyuk's got to get off the Instagram, get in the car he wants to race around the racetrack with, and get it to Levi's Stadium and end the whole charade. End the whole thing. That is the only way this comes to a head. And he's a commander. He can put on a hat every single day of the other 31 teams. It don't mean he's going to sign there or can play there until he comes to work. Show up, and it all ends. It's that simple. It is that easy of a solution to what has become the biggest problem of the offseason in the entire NFL. It's just crazy. But if you guys want to see, maybe, potentially, Brandon Aiyuk play the San Francisco 49ers this season, I know Joseph out there, the show hadn't even started yet. He was waiting for the live to begin on YouTube, and this was his first comment. Man, I can't wait for this old sorry-ass team of bums to get destroyed and fail. As a fan, I'm going to be rooting for them to lose every single game and going to be eager to see Brock get folded by Myles Garrett. Well, Joseph, if you want to watch Brandon Aiyuk take a belt to the San Francisco 49ers this year, God, I hope it's vice versa. Go to SeatGeek.com and use our promo code 49ErsAccess, 49 ERS, ACCESS to save yourself $20 off your first purchase, whether it's concerts, sporting events. Heck, if you want to go to New York City and watch the NBA Finals the next few days, go to SeatGeek.com and use that promo code 49ErsAccess. You can also follow us on social media. I love the off-season chatter. I love talking to people on there. So please follow us on there. Let's discuss. Let's have a debate. Let's go back and forth as fans of the 49ers. At social media, which is at 49ers_access. That is the X or Twitter. At 49ers.access is the Instagram. We're always chatting on there every single day. And as always, thank you guys so much for liking, sharing, hopefully also subscribing. And until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett, and stay faithful.